everybody, and welcome to our first 2025 British Touring Car video. Now this is obviously based on the drivers of the 2025 season. We now know who is driving for who, thank God. We've just had BTCC Media Day over at Donington Park, which I was around for the majority of the day. With me though is my good friend Ben, as always. Say hello.
Hello!
And yeah, we're going to be covering basically who's driving for who, any surprises we think might be heading our way during the 2025 season, and last but not least, the predictions from myself of Ben as to who we think is going to win the drivers and who is going to win the teams. So, where to start with this one? Well, let's start with BMW, shall we? So BMW's obviously got the reigning champion Jake Hill. He's going to be driving his BMW 330i M Sport under the Laser Tools Racing with MB Motorsport banner, as he usually does. We also have Darryl De Leon, who's joining him alongside Aidan Moffat and Charles Rainford, who's a new driver. I believe he's coming from the Porsche Carrera Cup specification class, should I say race series, that's what I meant to say. So LKQ Euro Car Parts Racing with WSR is who Aidan Moffat and Charles Rainford are racing under. Next we move to Hyundai, and Hyundai still retains its i30 Fastback N, this time under Team Virtue. So you may remember a few years ago it was Accelerate Motorsport, and it was Bristol Street Motors, and now it's Team Virtue alongside its regular sponsors. So we have Tom Ingram, Tom Chilton, Adam Morgan, who moved over from WSR, Michael Kreese makes a return to the series, and Senna Proctor as well. It is worth noting that there is a bit of a question mark as to who is driving which rounds because of the fact that there's 5 drivers there, and there is only 4 cars supposedly. However, you may see 5 of these cars on track at the same time. I do believe Senna Proctor's only in for a few rounds, so we'll see how that one goes. Next we're going to move on to Toyota. So Toyota, which is Toyota Gazoo Racing, still running its Corolla, and none of the drivers that raced last year are racing for it. So now we've got Aaron Taylor-Smith, who's moved over from Powmats Racing. Gordon Shedden, aka Flash, has made a return to the series. And Ronan Pearson, who left about halfway through the season last year. He's coming back and filling one of the seats alongside rookie James Dorlin. So he's entering the sport for the first time. Then we move to the Napa boys. Still the same lineup that we had last year, running the Ford Focus ST with Dan Camish, Dan Rowbottom, Sam Osborne, and of course Ash Sutton, who will probably be gunning for the 5th title that he so rightly thinks he deserves. Then we move on to a familiar team, One Motorsports. You may remember them, they bowed out for a year or so. They are returning back once again with the Honda Civic Type R that they ran, with Josh Cook and Stephen Jelly, who surprisingly turned up for the team. Still running their black and gold livery as well, can confirm that one. Next we move over to the Cupra Leon car, which is being run under 2 different ones, which is Rocket Racing with a Limited Motorsport, aka Limited Motorsport, Powder Monkey Brewing Company with Essie Duck. That will be driven by Max Hall, who's a new rookie, Nicholas Hamilton, who's returning after a year absence, and Dexter Patterson, again also returning from a year absence. Restart Racing has a new driver, in the sense of they are running Chris Smiley with returnee Dan Lloyd, who are running a Hyundai i30 Fastback, so they scrapped the Cupra Leon in favour of a Hyundai i30. And last but not least, Motor Parts Direct with PowerMax Racing, which is still running the Astra with a 1-car team headed by Mikey Doble. So, then, out of the whole driver lineup, is there anybody in particular that you think could spring a massive surprise this season?
Not really. I'm thinking it's more one of them where this season is one that you're going to find, I think, the grid's going to be split very hardly with talent. I think a lot of the new people and some people you might be surprised with might be further down. And I think I can see that there's like quite a lot of things where Toyota, they don't have a consistent team from year to year, and I think that's not going to be a helpful thing to them because you're constantly having to tune the car to different drives and such. So I think it's more just going to be keeping an eye out of how it goes from hopefully having more people who surprise me and do actually go for race wins instead of having a consistent top 5 of here's the same 5 people fighting at the front, which I think is going to happen. I'd rather that not happen. So I'm hoping I get proven wrong.
Yeah, for me, I mean, if I was to say who could really spring a surprise this season, I mean, based off preseason testing, I'd have to say Max Hall, personally. But then also, Dan Lloyd is a guy that knows that Hyundai 30 was kind of saying this before we started recording. If I was to be honest, I'd probably say Max Hall and Charles Rainford are the ones that, for me, would spring a surprise this season. I think the reason being is because, again, Max Hall, you'd have to just go off pre-season testing results. He did very, very well at Croft, and he's not done too bad today at Donington. Charles Rainford, whilst not putting the pace together, I don't think, in pre-season testing as well as was originally hoped, I think he could spring a surprise given the fact that I think it's, for me, mainly just because the fact of where he's coming from. So he's come from the Porsches, he's going into... So essentially the Porsches, the Carrera Cups, they're rear-wheel drive cars. And he's going into the BMW 330, which is also a rear-wheel drive car. So I feel like he'll probably pick that up a lot quicker. I think, to be honest, it'll be interesting. I could probably say as well, Mikey Doble, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the Astra. Especially with the fact that it's a one-car team, which is a shame. Personally speaking, I think that's the biggest shame out of all of the drivers when they were all being confirmed one by one, that Mikey Doble was confirmed there. It was like, oh, who's going to be his teammate? And they just never got one. Again, probably just due to budget or whichever, but yeah, that was a big shame, I think, for PMR. Well, I think in terms of... Well, let me ask you this one then, Ben. Out of the rookies then, the ones that are coming into the sport, is there any in particular that you can see doing a lot better than the rest?
I think it's sort of like you said, Charles Rainford is probably the one I would keep an eye on, because like you said, it's similar sort of rear-wheel drive dynamic. Yes, Porsche's handle different because it's rear engine, but that's probably in his favour because the front engine means it'll be a bit more predictable than a Porsche, so he's definitely one to keep a good eye on. Max Hall, like you said, yeah, if you look at what he's done in the timesheets on the testing, yes, it's testing, it's only sort of like getting a feel for everything, and you could say, oh, some people might not be pushing and showing the cards, which they probably won't be, but it's still, if you're on top of a timesheet, and some people will be pushing to get on top of that timesheet, that's really good luck for yourself. So yeah, I'm gonna say them two are definitely, like you said, for the same reason really. It's sort of, they're the ones who going into it, you need to keep your eye on them, and I hope they do well. And will they get like a race 1 or 2 win, which, you know, that's good, or will they get the reverse grid partly given to you and you get a bit of help getting it win? But either way, you know, win's a win.
Yeah, exactly. Is it like, there is a million questions that we could ask, like, will somebody win the first title? Will Sutton get his 5th? Will it be Ingram's chance to redeem himself and get a second one in, you know, after a few years of not winning the title? You know, will Hill manage to hold on to win his second title in a row? There's many questions. Obviously, all of these will be answered. Apart from one, and I think this is the big question above all else, and this is also where we'll throw it over to you guys. We'll give ours first. But Ben, who would you say is who are you going to predict as the drivers and the team's champion for this season?
Oh gosh, this season could be quite an interesting one, because obviously the hybrid's just gone, so now it's back to more or less engine. Obviously we've got the turbo thing going on, so it's could be...
And lighter cars.
Yeah, exactly. And on that basis, based on who I know is usually quite good when it comes to completely different changes and going straight off the mark with new rules, Ash Sutton. He'll be the person who I'm going to go with. And probably for similar reasons of they're going to tune it to him, and luckily all their team is the same guys and they're all used to knowing how to run that Napa sort of tune to Ash car. I think Napa as well.
This might blow your socks off when I tell you who I'm going to predict. I say that, I don't know, maybe not. The part of me wants to say Sutton for the title.
Yeah, he's good when it's change of rules.
However, given how quick that Hyundai looked when it had a lot of weight in that car, the fact that they're taking weight out says to me that Hyundai with Ingram is going to be a rocket. And I have a high feeling, a very big feeling, that Ingram is going to run away with the title this year. I truly believe that Hyundai will be. Yeah, you're like, who's the Ingram fan and who's the Sutton fan? But I truly believe that when the last couple of years, I know I'm probably just going off like the patterns, but based off the fact that Ingram has finished outside the top 2, I think it is, in the last 3 years since the hybrid thing came in. The fact that that's now gone, bear in mind that's 3 years that they've developed that car. Granted, they developed it for the hybrid system, but you think of how quick that Hyundai has been in the last 3 years and how much quicker it's got. Like, it ran Hill all the way to the line. Granted, the Ford in 23 that Sutton had was pretty unbeatable almost. But and obviously there was a lot of bad luck for Ingram that year. But the fact that they came so strong last year and they just missed out at the very end to Hill, obviously that proved how good Hill was driving versus Ingram. But also, Ingram's car was a rocket ship last year a lot of the time. It was a very powerful car, and I think by taking that weight out, that car will be even faster and even stronger. However, like you said, we don't know what Napa's got hidden up their sleeve, as the same with the BMWs. Personally, I think the BMWs are falter behind, but you never say never. I mean, for me personally, I would go with Ingram is the champion for the year. For teams, I'm going to stick with Napa. I do believe they've got a strong enough lineup. Don't get me wrong, I think the Hyundai team is strong, but not that strong. I think that Napa's going to get the teams fair and square. I think they'll get their own merit. Yeah,
exactly. It's more, I think the consistent driver lineup of Napa, that's the biggest help this year.
Yeah.
Every other team, people have left, like Turkington's gone from BMW as the big point guy for BMW. He's gone, so unless somehow another one of them steps up, BMW's got no chance.
Well, if we eat our words, then so be it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be quite happy to be surprised. I
think there's. I mean, like, we don't know what we're in for. We really don't. But no. I personally do believe that with the rule changes, with all the hybrid gone, the turbo coming in.
Come on, Astra.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that this year will probably be. And if I'm being quite honest, I've never really said this much, but I think this will be one of the most exciting seasons we've had in years. Because of the fact of we've now got 3 champions on the grid. Granted, you could say, oh, well, you've got Sheridan and so on. But what I mean is we've got 3 newish. Recent ones. You've got Hill, who won his last year. Sutton won his 4th the other year, 2 years ago. And Ingram got his first 3 years ago. So they've all got a point to play, a point to prove with each other. Plus you've got Cook, who's still not won the title yet, but he really wants it. You just don't know. You really don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
So we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, just to kind of wrap that up. But yeah, predictions are Ben. Ben is saying Sutton and Napa. I'm going to say Ingram and Napa. The predictions for the drivers and the teams championships. But this is where obviously we pass it over to you guys. Let us know what you think is going to be the final result
and
of the
put
championship.
Your reason. Don't just name stuff.
Yeah.
Put your reason.
Give us a reason and why, if you can.
Yeah, because I'd like to read different reasons to mine, especially.
And as a bit of a bonus, For those that have seen the liveries for the cars, let us know what your favourite livery is, because me and Ben could spend an hour on its own just talking about liveries and which ones are better and which ones are worse and which ones look like something from the 1970s and stuff like that. But let us know as well what you think of the liveries. Is there anything in particular that you find favourite? Is there anything that you don't like? Let us know. The next time you'll hear from us will be after round 1 at Donington Park itself, which is in about 2 weeks' time, just short of. And we look forward. Yeah, we look forward to seeing what action the season will kickstart with at Donington Park. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you guys there for the race review. Obviously, as Ben was mentioned before, with the added fact that the fact that BTCC, people may have heard of it, but BTCC are going to be streaming. Obviously, they're streaming the qualifying on YouTube, but they're now going to be streaming the racing on YouTube as well. So if you've not had a chance to watch the season or any of the races, you've now got the perfect opportunity to see the championship in person, if you don't live in the UK, that is. And hopefully it does inspire people to watch it. I think it's a really good series, definitely worth the money to watch it if you're able to attend in the UK. And obviously online it's even better. Yeah, on that note, we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you very much for listening, for watching, and we will see you for the race review in about a week and a half's time, where we'll discuss obviously round 1 and everything else. Until then, thanks for watching, and ta-ra.
Bye.